Hi, this is Dustin with Dustin's Dollars. Today I'm going to be talking about Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, ticker GBTC. I'm going to be talking about what this is, how it relates to Bitcoin, and what are the pros and cons that I see of GBTC. Before I begin, let me remind you that I'm not a financial advisor or a financial professional of any sort. All opinions that I express in this video are mine and do not represent those of any company or any other individual. I actually do hold some Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. So this video should be for your entertainment purposes only. Because I could be wrong about everything I say in this video, you need to do your own research before making any investment decisions. So I want to make this video because it's a conversation that I've had with a couple folks about Bitcoin and about how they can get some exposure to Bitcoin without having to learn all of the details, and how they can maybe invest. I'm talking about some of the pros already in their own brokerage account or in an IRA or 401k potentially. And so I wanted to sort of record this out here so that next time when folks ask me, I can have somewhere to point them. So GBTC, also known, that's the ticker for the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. I think it is traded in one of the over-the-counter markets. But I think most brokerage accounts would have access to this. I haven't personally had problem being able to purchase it in a couple different accounts. But what is it, right? So this is a trust that holds Bitcoin, and that's all it is, right? It's a fund trust, whatever the correct name, I guess, would be a trust. But it is all it does is it holds Bitcoin. They do there is an annual fee for it, but the intent is for it to actually just track the price of Bitcoin modulo that fee. And so a couple details about this is that they actually do hold the Bitcoin in cold storage, meaning these are supposed to be in their custody with their keys for the Bitcoin. They hold the keys, the GBTC does, and they are supposed to be not even, those keys are not supposed to be on any computer that is connected to the internet right now. It should all be offline. So that should be, a mechanism to actually keep the Bitcoin that the trust holds safe. And as of right now, there is no way to redeem your GBTC shares for Bitcoin. So you can't say, hey, I have, 1,000 shares of GBTC and that's worth, I don't know how many Bitcoins that would be, 0.1 Bitcoins. I'm just making that up. Here, take my 1,000 shares and give me back my 0.1 Bitcoin. You cannot do that right now. So that Bitcoin is sort of locked up in the trust. And when this is actually open for new investment, it's not actually open for new investment at all right now. But when it was open for new investment, folks who wanted to actually buy into the fund and create new shares of GBTC had a 6-month holding period. And you can see this documented right here, that there was a 6-month holding period for people who actually bought into the fund, that bought directly from GBTC, creating new shares. Today, if you are just buying GBTC through a brokerage account, if you are buying from someone else, this is trading on the secondary market, right? And so this is somebody who originally someone bought into the trust, had to hold those shares for 6 months, and then after that point in time, after those 6 months had elapsed, those particular shares could be traded, on the exchange, on the OTC markets, as a again, just like anything else would trade. So that is how it exists right now. And there, I do not believe have been any new inflows to the fund, meaning there haven't been new shares of GBTC created for quite a while. I actually looked up, found another website, and I don't know if this is 100% accurate or not, but at least the current number is pretty close to accurate in terms of number of Bitcoins they hold. This chart shows over time from the beginning of 2017 all the way through to roughly today, how many Bitcoins are held by the trust, by the GBTC. And you can see that this went up and up and up over time until about February 2021, when they must have stopped allowing new investment into the trust, because you can see the holdings are roughly flat since then, right? They've actually gone down a little bit. Like I said, there is a fee of GBTC, and so you will expect the number of Bitcoins to go down over time. And that fee is 2% per year. It should be 2% annually. And so that that is a thing. So let's talk about the risks real quick, and then I'll talk about the sort of what I view as positives, right? So risks first. As compared to holding Bitcoin itself, right, you do actually have counterparty risk in the sense that you do not hold the keys to the Bitcoin. Grayscale holds the keys to the Bitcoin. And so if someone in somebody grabs those keys from Grayscale, or there's a malicious actor within Grayscale, right, they can actually use those keys. They can take the Bitcoin, and there's nothing that can really be done. Nothing technically can be done to recover that Bitcoin, right? Some legal things might happen to be able to, get that person to give up the Bitcoin, but it is not inherently, there's really no way to recover it. Not like there would be for, some other things that are handled through US dollars, where they have more ability to, undo transactions, right? In Bitcoin, that's not really a thing. So there is counterparty risk here. And then the fees, obviously, I mentioned this already, that there's a 2% annual fee here. If you hold just plain Bitcoin, there is not a 2% annual fee. There's no annual fee if all you do is just hold it, of course. And as I said, I already mentioned that you can't actually redeem for Bitcoin. I think that's kind of a con, in the sense that you don't have any out, and I'm going to talk about in just a second the difference between the GBTC and Bitcoin in terms of pricing. And right now, GBTC trades at a discount to the value of the Bitcoin that those shares represent. And so, to be concrete about this, let's do the math, and let's say, right here they have the number in terms of there's 0.000911612 Bitcoins per share. And so we're going to be a little loose about this. So I have that many Bitcoins per share. Let's say I held 1,000 shares. Right, 1,000 shares would be 0.91612 Bitcoins. Bitcoin right now is trading at roughly, well, here we can just look it up. It's roughly $20,000. Bitcoin. Probably should have had this up. 20,000, 295, and let's see what was it earlier today when the market would have closed. Let's call it 20,500. It's somewhere around there. And so if I had 1,000 shares, that would represent this much, US dollars, right? This much value worth Bitcoin, about 18,780. But if you look at, GBTC right now, let me pull this up, GBTC. And if I actually held 1,000 shares there, right, I would actually have about $12,000, right, as the trading value of GBTC. And so that is to say that GBTC, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, trades at a lower value than the Bitcoin that is actually represented by those shares of GBTC. And so it is trading at a discount to the actual, to the net asset value behind those shares. And GBTC actually has a nice chart of this over time, you can see. And so on this chart, the gray line is the market price of GBTC per share, right? And the green line is the value of the actual Bitcoin that those shares represent. So if we look at this, you can see that in the past, right, in 2019, 2020, maybe even a little bit into 2021, the trading price of GBTC was actually above the price of the underlying Bitcoin, meaning GBTC traded at a premium to its net asset value. And at that point in time, you could actually just go buy Bitcoin for a lower price than what it would cost you to buy the GBTC. Somewhere around, February, March of 2021, that actually flipped, and you can see, it might be a little hard to see coming through the video. I don't know how well that's, how well that's coming through to YouTube, but you can see down around here that, there's actually quite a disparity. And right now, I went through the math, right? Right now it's, the Bitcoin is about $18 per share, almost $19 per share, and the actual market price is only $12 per share. So as of right now, you are buying shares that represent the equivalent of, almost 50% more Bitcoin than what you're actually paying for. And that is to say you're buying at about a 30, about a third discount, just rough math there. So Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, right, this is getting into what I view as one of the upsides, is that right now it does actually trade at a discount to Bitcoin's price. This is kind of a fundamental thing that I should actually mention, though, but as you can see here on the chart, although it has sometimes traded at a premium, sometimes traded at a discount as it does today. The movement does actually correlate with the price movement of Bitcoin itself, right? Hopefully that's pretty clear from looking at the graph here, and it is my assumption that will continue into the future, and I'm going to talk about this in just a moment, that they are actually trying to convert into an ETF. And as I said, right now it's structured in a certain way that I don't 100% understand, but it's a trust traded on the OTC markets. They filed an application, I think it was more than a year ago at this point, to actually convert their existing fund, the existing trust, into an ETF. And what this would mean is it gets pretty technical, and I'll admit that I don't fully understand the workings. I've done some reading, but I have more reading to do. But the most important part of converting to an ETF is that it would actually let people sort of buy and sell new shares very rapidly. Not hey, we have to actually go to Grayscale and have new shares issued and we have a 6-month holding period. It would be something that the market could actually do sort of in real time, and that would create a situation where when there is a discrepancy between the Bitcoin price and the GBTC price, folks could actually arbitrage that, right, by buying one, going long one and short the other, and have a risk-free trade to actually make money on that spread. And so in theory, which I think you see this in practice in a lot of places, so I think it's very likely this will actually happen, that gap would close, meaning GBTC and Bitcoin that gap would close, and GBTC would trade at roughly the same price as the underlying the value of the Bitcoin represented by those GBTC shares. So that is something they're trying to do. They filed this application with the SEC and it was denied. The whole thing here, the SEC filed, you can read through the whole thing yourself if you want. It's filed on the, SEC, and they told them no. And Grayscale now is actually suing the SEC. And so they recently started filing stuff for that lawsuit, and so we'll see where that goes. Part of their argument here, just to summarize, because I've read through a fair bit of this, is basically the SEC did allow a Bitcoin futures fund to file and be traded as an ETF. And the argument that Grayscale has is basically, look, you denied GBTC from converting into an ETF because they said that the underlying market could be manipulated, but you actually did allow a Bitcoin futures ETF to be approved, even though both of them trade on Bitcoin, which is the same underlying market. So if you think Bitcoin can be manipulated, then the Bitcoin futures, we assume can also be manipulated because it is also derived from Bitcoin itself. So I to me, it actually makes sense. We'll see what happens here. It's hard to say, but the part of the point is Grayscale is pretty invested. Maybe that's a loaded word. They have they're putting a lot of time and effort trying to get this converted into an ETF, and so hopefully this happens, right? Clearly, I have no particular insight, but just common sense to me kind of suggests that this is going to happen sooner or later. Now, some of the other major positives of GBTC, in addition to trading at a discount to Bitcoin's price that could in the future, that gap could close. GBTC is easy to buy in a brokerage account, right? You don't have to deal with managing keys. You don't have to deal with all the security risks that come along with trying to secure your own Bitcoin. Again, that is, you take on the counterparty risk for that, but it is very easy to buy in a brokerage account. You can buy it in your 401k, and actually have some tax benefits in a way that you can't. Most of those accounts don't really let you just hold raw Bitcoin. So that is kind of how I see things right now, and hopefully that gives you a good overview of GBTC, what it is, and how it differs from Bitcoin. And if you're curious, you can actually go read the GBTC. If you go on the SEC website, they file 10 Qs and 10 Ks, just like kind of like they're a stock. It's pretty interesting. Maybe amusing is a better word, that they actually file all those things, even though they're not they're not an operating company, but they have it here, and you can look at it of how many Bitcoin do they have, how much, what were the expenses, et cetera, et cetera. So that's all there if you want to go do some of your own research. So all right, that was it. Thank you very much for watching.